Final season is in the air, and if you don't believe me, the Carolina Hurricanes are going to the Stanley Cup Finals, and here's a certain reaction from a certain person on this panel.
We're going to the Stanley Cup Final. Oh, man. 20 years. 20 years. Oh, man. Oh, man. This is not a fever dream. This is real. Yes. Let's go get that cup, boys.
Alec?
Indeed. Indeed, it's not a fever dream. And Kev, I can say likewise for your Knicks, it's not a fever dream either.
Well, it's also not a fever dream that we're going to have a full panel because John Munch is here.
Enter stage right.
Enter stage right. We're going to play the intro. We got a lot of stuff to get into. Let's do it.
Flag football's almost bad as amateur wrestling.
There's a lot that needs to be fixed.
What are we even hearing about?
Tiny rant here. I can't. Brian Cashman is as dumb as a doornail.
The U.S. will beat Canada in the gold medal game.
Guarantee!
Get Anthony Volpe off of my team.
Just give me my team.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the second time this week that we're putting up content, but this is in the form of a true episode. Matt Sirianni, Kevin Loves Colleagues, Alec, Nava, John Walsh. Gentlemen, how you doing?
Let's go dancing with Lord Stanley. 4 wins. 4 wins.
I can see outside my window right now. It's orange and blue, guys, and I'm loving it.
Orange and blue skies. Well, earlier this year, John has tasted success with the Seattle Seahawks, and now Kevin and Alec are trying to join the club. And then there's me. I'm waiting.
You sure you don't need Marcus Stewart for yourself, Matt?
I mean, let me just put it. Let me just put it briefly. The Nets are trash. The Rangers are trash. Rutgers is trash. The Giants are rebuilding, and the Yankees. I'm just waiting for a heartbreak. Literally, that's just the summary of all 5 of my teams I root for.
Oh boy.
Well, I think you should have more confidence in the Giants and Yankees at least, because the Giants, first year in the Harbaugh era, we'll see what happens there, and then the Yankees. I mean, we'll see what happens. They currently have one of the best rotations in baseball, so hang in there, Matt.
I'm gonna try. And hopefully I don't need Marcus Stewart because Marcus Stewart is my alter ego, and I can't really tell my therapy with Marcus Stewart wearing the shades. Anyway, let's get right into it. We're going to start off with the NBA starting right now. So let's start off with the obvious. There's a Game 7 tonight between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the San Antonio Spurs that just tipped off seconds ago. So we'll be keeping track of that game over the course of the show. But one half of the NBA Finals matchup is set. The New York Knicks, thanks to an assist from Kevin Zalatovic, who made a big-ass rant that lasted 9.5 minutes. The Knicks have gone 11-0 ever since then. And also, you got to give a shout out to WWE wrestler Danhausen for actually cursing the Cavaliers. Something that I never expected. It's real. It's real. The curse is real.
Yeah. What's also real is that the Knicks are in the NBA Finals, and I never thought I would ever say that in my lifetime, because out of all of my favorite teams amongst the Yankees, the Giants, the Devils, and the Knicks, I've at least seen 3 of those teams at least make it to their respective title games. I've seen the Yankees make it to a World Series 2 years ago, even though they lost. I've seen the Giants win a Super Bowl back in 2011. I didn't really remember the 2007 one, but obviously I know of it. And I saw the Devils make the Stanley Cup Finals in 2012, even though they lost to the Kings. I still saw that happen. I was in middle school when that happened. I remember it. But I've never seen my New York Knicks make it to a finals ever. And they haven't made one since 1999. That's when I was born. So 27 years ago. And to finally see them do it, like I can't believe. I mean, honestly, because you always look at this team as like being a team that's just not good enough, just never good enough. I mean, just like one of the New York teams that just fails to at least make the playoffs or even like capture like any sort of relevance. I mean, like you had the Nets, who had their big run when they had KD, Kyrie, and Harden, and you thought that was going to turn to something, and then of course look at what they are now. The Knicks, same thing. Since I want to say from 2002 to 2020, they have been on the short end of the stick for so long through pain, torture, and misery, and just outright atrocious basketball of what this team is. And I started becoming a Knicks fan when I was just 10 years old, back in 2009. And the first time I really fell in love with the team was that 2012-2013 team, when they had guys, like Carmelo Anthony, Raymond Felton, Amari Stoudemire, J.R. Smith, Iman Shumpert, Steve Novak, all those guys. I love that team. And then they end up losing to the Pacers in the second round, and I was devastated. I haven't seen even a shrivel of that for at least 10 more years since Jalen Brunson got here. And I had a feeling that this Knicks team was about to turn into something special whenever I saw this guy put up the numbers that he has, especially in the playoffs. And to see what this Knicks team has become full circle to what they are this year it's just absolutely like incredible. And the dominance that they are doing on this level of display of basketball, this team that they are doing, like the chemistry that they have, the camaraderie that they have, the perseverance, the mentality that they all have, saying that like, yeah, we won the Eastern Conference Finals, but we're not satisfied. We got a bigger goal. And to see just how well that they gel together, firing Coach Thibodeau after making Eastern Conference Finals for Mike Brown, all those decisions to lead up to this point and to finally make it here just to get another chance 27 years later, it's just so special, man. And to hear the words, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals, coming from Mike Breen himself. I mean, that's just even more special to me, since like he's been calling Knicks games since 1991. And I've been watching him ever since. And I've told you guys that I think Mike Breen is my personal favorite broadcaster of all time. I don't know about you guys, but for me, it adds a personal touch knowing that like he's calling every single Knicks postseason game this playoff run. When I heard him say that, I nearly teared up. I was holding back tears because I was like planked into that one episode when it was like getting the when he got the formula, and he's like, "No tears, not yet." So that was me. I was this close, but I need to see this team win a title.
You know what's funny? That's exactly what you were.
Yeah.
No tears, not yet.
Yeah,
There's work to be done.
Because I know better than to get too high on my team whenever something good happens, because I've been a victim of it with the Giants, the Yankees.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be this way for the Knicks, because I stated multiple times in our previous two shows that like this just feels like it's their year. This feels like a team of destiny, like you said. And if this isn't the year, when is it going to be? Because I feel like if the Knicks don't win this year, I don't even know like if they're going to even get another chance, to be completely honest with you. Because you have to remember, like, the Knicks were fortunate to not play the Celtics, not play the Pistons in the playoffs. I get that. They were fortunate that Halliburton's still hurt recovering. They were fortunate that Tatum barely played this year until the playoffs, and they were fortunate that Cleveland has James Harden, who's a playoff choker. But I just don't.
God.
I just don't know if like which teams are going to upgrade and which teams are going to still be in the mix. Like the Sixers can upgrade, the Cavaliers can upgrade. I just don't know, man, because this Knicks team just always seems to find a way to win, and they got hot at the right time in these playoffs, and they haven't lost the game since my epic rant on them after that game 3 loss against the Hawks.
Yeah.
And everybody in this team they play off of each other because they complement one another. They believe in one another, and I believed in them. Like whenever that first game against Cleveland, I believed that they were going to come back from 22 points down because I know what this team was capable of. When I saw them after overcoming that Hawks series, I knew what this team was capable of and how they could respond because we have the most clutch player in the NBA in Jalen Brunson, and I know just the kind of player that he is and what this team is. And again, I said it a couple times last episode. I'll say it again. I never gave up on this team because they never gave up on me, and they never gave up on themselves. And that's how this team should be playing in the finals, regardless of who they face, whether it's the Spurs or Thunder. But I need to see a championship title with my own eyes because if that happens, like you're gonna start to see all the emotion come out of me.
I'll tell you right now, I'm not a New York Knicks fan, as mentioned before. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan, but I got to give a shout out to you, my friend James Hartman, Jake Cardinelli, my cousin Ryan, and all my other close Knicks fans for at least letting me on board the bandwagon for this entire playoff run because it really has been insane. It's been something that I never thought I would see before. It's the most dominant run to the finals in NBA history by point per game differential, by actual play. Like there are 3 season series clinching games. They won by 30 points or more in all 3 of them. It's crazy. And I think another thing is too, I was in New York City for game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Grown men were crying. People who were my age or younger were probably were drinking beers out of celebration because they were so excited about this. And when I got to Madison Square Garden after the game, I just saw people flooding the streets of New York. Now, what happened after the game before the Eastern Conference Finals, you might want to see on social media because I'm not going to explain it. Okay, maybe I will. People dancing on top of Madison Square Garden shirtless. People taking food from hot dog stands. People jumping through tables. People dancing in front of cars. Do I go on?
I mean, if the Knicks win the NBA Finals, I mean, yeah, you're going to see New York City turn into Gotham because Knicks fans have been waiting a long time for this. They've been waiting 53 years to see a title, and they've waited 27 years just to even see them get a chance to win a title. So I don't blame Knicks fans one bit. I get that they can be like very rowdy, rambunctious, and like I just outright ridiculous. But you know what? I love it. I love seeing like when a team, not many teams like the New York Knicks can really unite a city like the way that they have, because New York Knicks fans, I feel like, are one of the few fan bases that really, really like amp it up and are very passionate to a level to where if their team goes on a deep run and they feel like that this is their year, they're going to show it and they're going to express why. And I think that's just a beautiful thing to see for me.
Now, John, I want to ask you a question. When the Seattle Seahawks won the Super Bowl, was it that crazy in Seattle when they won?
It wasn't that crazy till the parade. And then like it was almost like twice the population of Seattle showed up for the parade. There were a lot of people from Idaho and Oregon and Eastern Washington, and they all just, they were all there for the parade, and that's how we celebrate. It was, when we do the Super Bowl, it was cold, really, really cold the last time.
Right.
It wasn't as cold in February this year, but I remember, our last Super Bowl run, just how really, really cold it was for the parade. So that really tames things down a little bit, and we don't have that Gotham attitude, probably too much weed. We probably smoked too much weed, to be that crazy.
Oh, yeah. Fair.
Oh, man. Well, if there is one thing I want to say, I actually remember the last time the Seahawks did win the Super Bowl was in New York City, my neck of the woods, my area. And there was a blizzard the next day, and the Seahawks couldn't get home until like maybe 1 or 2 days later. And that, my friends, is why the Super Bowl will never be held in New York, New Jersey ever again.
I'll always remember that because the week before the Empire State Building had Seahawks colors on it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. Yo, I actually went to the Super Bowl festivities in New York City that week. I'm getting off topic here, but I went to the Super Bowl festivities in New York City, and I actually shook hands with Brian Billick, former Ravens head coach, who was, I think, and then an analyst for NFL Network. I shook hands with him. I ran into LaDainian Tomlinson, who was also working for NFL Network at the time. And then there were a couple of staffers there. Now, New York City is probably going to be just like that when the Knicks play in the NBA Finals. You're probably going to see a lot of festivities, a lot of celebrating. Bars are probably going to up their prices just because they want people to buy drinks and watch the games. Now, when I went to New York City to watch Game 4, every bar had a capacity limit. You could not get into a bar if it was jam-packed and acting like there was no standing room.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately for me and my 3 buddies that I went to New York City with, we were able to walk into this one bar that had just a little bit of space, and it was perfect. We fit right in, and then the next thing you know, bar closed.
Yeah, you guys were lucky.
We lucked out on that one.
Oh, man. Imagine the scenes over there.
Oh, my God. It's crazy. Well, the Knicks have 4 more wins to go. They have to win 4 more times. And I asked Kevin before we actually started recording, I asked him who he wants to face in the NBA Finals, and he said the Spurs. Alec, I believe you said the Spurs, but you think it might be the Thunder, correct?
No, I said Spurs, but if I were a Knicks fan, I would say I want whoever is worthy.
Right. Okay. John, who do you think comes out of the Western Conference Finals?
I honestly think it's going to be the Thunder.
Okay. I like it. I can respect it. I mean, either way, this Game 7 is going to be a close call. And one thing Alex said about Game 7 in the Discord that we're in our little chat is that this Game 7, correct me if I'm right, if I'm wrong, Alex, this Game 7 could determine the way the NBA is, like star power. Am I correct on that?
Well, more about play style from where I'm going with this on my hot take, that this is quite possibly the biggest game in modern NBA history in terms of how the game is going to be viewed moving forward. If it's going to be viewed as an unwatchable product, or if there's hope on the light. With this, as we're seeing with the Spurs being that hope. How teams are viewed can change in a matter of time. And you think the Thunder hated it now? Well, this all started several years ago. And it doesn't stop at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Mm-hmm. Yes, the jokes about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is flopping are funny and all of that. But I want to ask you guys one question. Who do you think instructs every Thunder player to flop? And I mean every Thunder player, not just SGA. Who do you think instructs them? Oh, yeah, Mark Daigneault. It starts with him. He's running this whole operation about having players flop at every turn. Jared McCain wasn't flopping like this in Philadelphia before he was acquired. And now he's flopping at every turn. All for to gain advantage for exploiting the rules. Yet it's driving ratings down to the basement. And I'm just gonna stop at the basement because yes, it's just making the product annoying for that. The Spurs are not the only team to call them out on this unethical stuff. Mm. Flopping is not ethical. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did it, and he's not the only one who's done it. Other stars have done it in the past.
Right.
James Harden's done it, and yes, he used to play for the Rockets. He's not free from criticism. James Harden used to do it. LeBron James used to do it. Mm-hmm. Many other stars used to do it. It all has to stop at one point. At some point, enough's enough. In the future reference, the NBA has to consider that a flop should be considered a technical foul for unsportsmanlike conduct.
Yeah, that's true. That's accurate. Now, one last thing I want to get into with the NBA. John mentioned this on his Fresh Founder Fried last episode about the NBA anti-tanking rules. They have officially gone to effect. There will be a new 3-2-1 lottery system that will be incorporated into the NBA draft lottery to prevent tanking. Now, here's part of what it is. The bottom 3 teams are penalized, receiving only 2 lottery balls for the number 1 overall pick, compared to 3 balls for teams slotted 4th through 10. The draft lottery is expanded to 14 teams instead of 16, including the top 10 teams missing the play-in tournament. And no team can receive the number 1 pick in consecutive years, nor a top 5 pick in 3 consecutive years. And the league commissioner, Adam Silver, has expanded disciplinary authority to alter lottery odds or adjust draft position for teams demonstrating egregious tanking. John, you mentioned this on our last episode. Do you think this is going to help things out, or do you think this is going to harm the NBA?
Well, like I said in my FFF, the teams that had the advantage in staying at the bottom still have that advantage, except your goal is different. Your goal is to not be the bottom 3 teams. Your goal is to be, that next bracket where you're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You want to be in there. So you're still tanking, but you're tanking to be in the next bracket, not the worst.
Yeah, it's a confusing system, and honestly, the NBA is just trying to maneuver their way around the whole tanking term. If it's really blatant that you're tanking, you're gonna get penalized.
Well, I feel that these new anti-tanking measures are being harsh to teams that just suck.
Right.
What if the team isn't even trying to tank and it's just flat out awful? You're penalizing them for just being awful. We're just existing for the purpose of you're just preventing them from getting any sort of hope, so that teams that are 4 through 10 get more chances at it, but not teams that are 1 for 3. I mean, let me say this nice and clear.
Sure.
If you're blatantly tanking, the first violation should be a cash fine.
Yes.
The second violation, cash fine, and you forfeit a 2nd-round pick for the upcoming draft. The third violation is essentially the 3 strikes and you're out rule coming into effect. Cash violation that is much more severe, and you lose your 1st-round pick.
I like that. That's a good proposal. If Commissioner Alec Nava for Commissioner of the NBA, I like that proposal.
I mean, why penalize teams that just suck?
Right.
Instead of penalizing teams that are just tanking nonstop, intentionally.
Yeah.
Like with the Mavericks when they in 2022 when they rested all their starters and made a mockery out of the playoffs, so that they can get Case and Wallace to trade him to the Thunder for Derek Lively.
Yeah, I remember that. That's a good example. That's a really good example.
Another example, real quick, to touch on what Alex said. I'm looking at the new odds under this new anti-taking system. It's actually better. If you're literally the worst team in the NBA, you would have better odds of being the worst team in the NBA than being the loser of the play-in tournament if you're a 7-8 seed, which I think is very weird. And you would have a better chance of having better odds if you're the 10th worst seed than if you're the 9th seed, which I think is definitely confusing. But again, it's really just harshing on teams that are just really bad. But it's doing more harm to teams that are in the 7-8 seed and you lose in the play-in turn. That's weird to me. Like, I feel like the odds should be higher for like teams who are worse. And then if you lose the play-in, at least you're getting there. At least you're at least a top 7 or 8 seed. I don't think you should have lower odds than the worst team, in my opinion. I think that's definitely a step backwards, in my opinion.
Yeah, those odds that they put out there, they don't make any sense at all. It's confusing, and much like what Adam Silver has done most of his tenure as the NBA commissioner. I know he's popular with players and owners, but like he's just making a mockery of his whole job.
Speaking of Silver, I gotta do a little mini rant on him real quick. He straight up told everyone to our faces that he doesn't think flopping is an issue in the NBA. To which I say, sir, have you watched any game of your own league this season? It's a consistent problem, especially with this Thunder team and SGA and all around the league where people are doing it. And by the way, didn't the NBA say that prior to this season they were going to start penalizing players for flopping?
Yeah.
Not once this season. That was just a flat out blatant lie. And you're seeing this flopping run rampant to the point where it's just unwatchable. You're starting to see even the media analysts and experts who like sugarcoat and praise the NBA, they start to call out the nonsense too and start sniffing some nonsense. And I feel like that it's just only going to get worse until Adam Silver does something about it. And kind of like Alex said, I feel like you can either do a technical foul if someone flops. For me, what I think should happen, if you flop more than 3 times, I feel like that's it. You can't play for a certain amount of games or stuff like that. I feel like that, or make it to where that if you are flopping, then I think it should be where like kind of like the same rule as like fouls. If you flop 6 times, you're out of the game. It's
right.
The same concept. I feel like there has to be a system where you mitigate flopping, because there's a difference between flopping and foul baiting. Foul baiting, players have done it like ever since basketball first started. I get that. You want to draw a ball, fine. I get that. It's a different thing when you are literally falling after you're trying to get one, because there's one thing if you're actively trying to get one, if you're leaning into contact, fine, that's foul baiting. But if you're flopping and falling when no one's touching you and you're still getting calls, that's not. And that's what SGA does every single game, it seems like. And it seems like every single time he scores 30, usually half of those points are due to him going to the free throw line. And Adam Silver or somebody in the upper office, management office, for whoever runs the show, they need to have a talk with these referees about what's considered a flop and what's considered a foul bait and what is even considered a foul anyway, especially with the way that this Thunder team is doing it. Because there are so many times in clips that you can go off of for the Thunder in this postseason to where SGA would go for a shot, he would fall down, and nobody would be touching him, and it would be right. That's not basketball. That's just, it's literally like the it's not the NBA anymore. It's the WWE, but with the basketball is what it is. It's just literally like a stunt. It's like a pre-scripted. It's like, oh no, SGA's going to get free throws no matter what, even though no one touched him. Like, come on, man. And like even when they review a play, like I think it was Game 5 in this first Thunder series, like the ball went off of Chet Holmgren's foot clearly, and Mitch Johnson didn't get granted a timeout, didn't get granted a challenge, and the Thunder seem to win every challenge that they get, even though, in my opinion, that they didn't deserve even to have that challenge. So it's stuff like that I feel like that needs to be addressed more so than this anti-tanking nonsense, which I feel like is only going to add to the problem of tanking instead of full-on mitigating it and correcting it.
I mean, Adam Silver, I feel like he's going to get criticized no matter what he does.
Oh, and also because once you mentioned about the not granted a timeout for that part, the Chet Holmgren stuff, I want to point out that the NBA has a massive conflict of interest, knowing that their director of officiating is literally a fan of, guess which team? The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yep.
So there's a massive conflict of interest problem with the NBA, and not many people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. There needs to be something that has to be done with the officiating, with the flopping, everything that's going on around. It's a shame because had it not been for the flopping, I would like to see more of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's mid-range game. It's lethal. It's one of the best in the league. He's an efficient scorer. Why are you flopping? There's no need for this.
No,
you've done incredible damage to your PR because of this.
Yeah, and honest to God, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is supposed to be labeled as the face of the NBA. This does not make you look like the face of the NBA. It makes you look like a dork. It really does.
Yeah, you're sacrificing it to Anthony Edwards or Luka Doncic or... Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah.
And SGA literally called foul on Underdog for writing a cease and desist letter to Underdog because they're promoting a unethical hoops parody game based on the game of operation where it's SGA and you have to try to get the ball instead of to not foul. And that's just soft in my opinion.
Yeah.
you're a two-time MVP, and like if I'm him, just ignore the noise. You know.
Oops, you called him out. That's 2 free throws for him.
Exactly. It's just like he's probably the softest, most overrated two-time MVP I've ever seen in my life. And that's why I want the Spurs to win tonight. Hopefully that happens. Right now, Spurs are up by 9 points.
Okay. This is just like PSG versus Arsenal all over again.
Pretty much, Alec was calling that game earlier today.
Yeah, which PSG won in the penalty shootout. And much like what NBA fans are rooting for the Spurs, football fans were rooting for PSG to win because guess which team Arsenal reminds us of? The Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, pretty much.
The NBA needs to treat flopping like the NCAA treats targeting.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You get kicked out, and you don't play the first half of the next game.
Oh, I've seen fish out the ocean that flop less than the Thunder do.
Oh man, the NBA's got a lot of problems, but we'll see what happens in the Western Conference Finals. Hopefully, we have an update for you by the end of the show. But we're gonna move on to the NHL because that matchup is set. The Vegas Golden Knights, yes, the Vegas Golden Knights, not the Colorado Avalanche, won the Western Conference Finals in a sweep, and coming out of the Eastern Conference Finals in a 5-game gentleman sweep. Sorry, Armchair, we love you, but the Carolina Hurricanes took care of the Montreal Canadiens. The Canadian drought for the Stanley Cup extends to 33 years.
Yikes.
Hear that? The storm's brewing. Hurricane.
Yes, sir, it is. It is over.
Coming.
Oh, somewhere PK Subban's conflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah, he finally has to give some praise to the Carolina Hurricanes for once. But in all honesty, who expected Vegas to come out the West?
I certainly didn't.
Me,
Not the sweep. Definitely not the sweep.
Of course not. Especially against the President's Trophy winners. There's certain playoff series in hockey in which an upset of an epic magnitude has you staring at the TV and you say, "Holy shrimp!" This is one of those series. Yeah, this is one of those series. Don't watch SpongeBob, John. You're missing out.
That should have been the first indicator because when was the last time the President's Trophy winner actually went to the finals?
2012, 2013.
Yeah, and that was a lockout shortened year. If you won a full year, 2008, with the Detroit Red Wings, when they won it all. But and now,
20 years.
Colorado, who looked like they were invincible, had their flaws exposed. There were several factors that led to this collapse. An awful power play, a goaltending tandem that was playing eons above their head, and a head coach and a coaching system that has trouble navigating around a stout defensive structure. When you move on from Ray Bennett as your power play coach, that's supposed to help you, especially given the amount of talent that you have at your disposal. You have Nathan McKinnon, Marty Necas, Kel McCarr, Gabe Landeskog, the return of Nazem Kadri, Arturi Lehkonen, Valery Nichushkin, and you can't even crack the top quarter, never mind the top half of the league on the power play? What are you doing? You're trying to adjust to enable the top end group, but with that much talent, you can't fall apart on the power play. My goodness, this wasn't even one player, it was the whole team. And you can't even blame McKinnon and McCarr because they were playing through injuries in this series.
Yeah.
McCarr missed the first 2 games. McKinnon took a block shot to his leg, and he was hobbled because of that. Vegas didn't change course. They were going through a head-on collision course, and they now have the latest collection of former Toronto Maple Leafs thriving elsewhere. Adding to the list, Mitch Marner. He now joins the likes of Kadri, Zach Hyman, Tyler Bozak, and Phil Kessel among ex-Leafs to thrive on a new home. Kessel won a cup in Pittsburgh, 2 of them actually. Hyman made back-to-back finals. Bozak won a cup in St. Louis. Kadri won a cup in Colorado. Marner's thriving on the top 6, and he's been used on all 3 forward sides, and he looks like the front runner for the Conn Smythe should Vegas win this all. Colorado sacrificed their future for an all-in push, but you know what they say, all-in pushes rarely work. And what stings is that I like Scott Wedgwood. There's a lot to like about this game. You may know from his Devils years, Kev. He's a good goalie in his own right. But can you really trust a career backup goalie for a long playoff run? Especially since he had a .921 save percentage, which is unsustainable to all hell and back?
Yeah.
What's even more crazy about Vegas going to the finals, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned it, Alec. They're coming from the soft pillow baby Pacific Division, and if you combine their losses and overtime losses, they made the Stanley Cup Finals with a 39-43 record, which is insane.
That's diabolical. I'm getting it too, Matt.
He's getting the pillow.
Here, unfortunately, this room is kind of empty for the most part. So
here's the pillow. There it is.
Pillow fight.
Pillow fight.
Pillow fight.
You would think that one of the teams in the Western Conference would come from the Central Division, but coming from the Pacific Division,
what
in and of itself.
I had Minnesota.
And technically, the Vegas Golden Knights finished with a below 500 record if you're counting overtime losses.
Yeah. I mean, it's insane. They fired Bruce Cassidy with 8 games left in the regular season and hired John Tortorella to replace him. And Kevin, you might know where I'm going with this because this has a slight parallel to your New Jersey Devils. Because remember, in 2000, the Devils fired Robbie Ftorek with 8 games left and hired Larry Robinson to be their coach. They made it to the final and won it all that year against the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Alec, my biggest question for you is, since obviously we're all going for the Carolina Hurricanes, we're supporting you at the Stanley Cup Finals. What does Carolina need to do to win the Stanley Cup trophy?
So I'll begin this before I answer your question. We were under a lot of pressure to make the final. Mm-hmm. The Florida Panthers are out of the way. They're not in the playoffs. The New York Rangers are out of the way. They're not in the playoffs.
Yep.
You can even add the Tampa Bay Lightning are out of the way. Montreal knocked them out the first round 7 games. The amount of pressure we were under to make this year count was near the equivalent of the Buffalo Bills in the NFL with all the Chiefs, Bengals, and Ravens out of the way.
Yep.
Unlike the Bills, mission accomplished. And we steamrolled a competition. People were saying the Ottawa series is going to be tight. The fact that we made them look like a fly on the wall and swamped them out is actually impressive. The Philadelphia series was a quick one. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, yeah.
Montreal, that was the series. Montreal was the team that scared me the most out of all teams left. And we made quick work out of a young team that had a lot to learn from in the Eastern Conference Final. That you made several steps, but you're not there yet. You're going to have to make several moves forward. Now here, Carolina thrives on defensive forecheck and rotating between all 4 forward lines and all 3 defensive pairs. The fact that we're evening the time on ice out to between all 4 of those 4 lines shows the depth that we have on the forward side. And even on the defensive side, it takes a 19-man effort, including the goaltender. But I'd like to shout out some individual performances. First, it's Freddie Anderson.
Yes.
For someone who has had a subpar regular season, and that's putting it lightly, the fact that he rebounded to this form in the playoffs is amazing. More than impressive, actually. This is easily the best postseason that he's been having. You can point to the light workload he's been getting, but that's the benefit of having a solid goaltender with an elite defense in front of you. Carolina is built on an elite defense. Rod Brindamore has this coaching style here all throughout. And it's not just Jacob Slavin. In fact, Slavin's workload is lightened, even with the games he missed because of injury, thanks to an offseason acquisition. You know how much I love the addition of Nikolai Ehlers? Well, here's another one. Keandre Miller. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing why Eric Tolsky paid the Rangers Scott Morrow a first-round pick and a second-round pick to get Miller. He's having the postseason run of his life. Effective at the defensive end, big-bodied, can be physical, kill penalties, and can quarterback a power play too. He's yet to score, but whenever he's there, either offensively or defensively, he's provided each and every time. And also, not an individual shout out, but let me give shout outs to the entire second line. Remember the third line of Carl Hagelin, Nick Bonino, and Phil Kessel? This is the modern day version of it. Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and Jackson Blake have been thriving off one another and provided themselves real chemistry. Hall's a former Hart Trophy winner, winning it with the Devils in 2018. Right, yeah. And that leadership is valuable for a team wanting to go to the Stanley Cup final. The Jordan Staal line, I like to call it the Air Jordan line, because a pair of Jordans and Nikolai Ehlers' nickname is Fly. So I kind of like this nickname when I first saw it from someone. I can't remember where, but I'm going to refer to that. That's our shutdown line. The defense has to lock down on the Vegas' superstars of Eichel and Marner. Yes. Those are the two players that need to be watched the most. Eichel hasn't been scoring a lot, but he's dangerous defensively. These two teams are mirror images of one another, in all seriousness. But with how Carolina's been playing, the question isn't if Carolina can continue this against Vegas. I think the real question is if Vegas can find a way to shut down Carolina and force us to deviate from our game plan.
I think that the Golden Knights are going to try and be aggressive offensively for sure. Mitch Marner has been very good this postseason. And I think going to the Golden Knights has given him new life. And I think that they're gonna try and do everything they can. I think that I don't know what the betting odds are. I don't have them right in front of me, but I'm thinking the Carolina Hurricanes are a heavy favorite to win the Stanley Cup here.
So everybody says, all right. So Stanley Cup final. So far, what I'm seeing is that the Hurricanes are favorites to win the Stanley Cup. I have to say they're minus 155 favorites to begin.
That's not terribly high.
Not terribly high, but some could say that Vegas could be punching above their weight. We don't know how much gas either team has left, but Carolina has learned from past heartbreaks. We took the lessons learned from the 2 Panthers series and the 2 Rangers series before.
Right.
And when all that anger, all that heartbreak built up, it's just pent-up frustration being unleashed on everybody involved. No one's spared.
Welcome to the club, Alec.
This Carolina Hurricanes team, they were one of 5 teams to start the postseason 8-0. They went 12-1 in the first 3 rounds. They scored how many goals in this entire postseason?
Well, I have to check again, but last I remember, we scored 2 in Game 1 against Montreal, then 3, 4, and then we capped it up with 6 in the Eastern Conference Final. That series, well, those 3-2 overtimes and scores may give the appearance of close games. Yeah. But statistically, from what I saw, this was the most lopsided series by expected goals in NHL history.
Wow. And to think they got beaten down by Montreal in the first game.
Yeah, I mean, that was all because of rust. We had 11 days off. You could enjoy several days worth of watching Buffalo, Montreal, some NASCAR races, some NBA games, some baseball games from your couch before coming back into action.
Like, I will say this, like the New York Knicks had a 9-day layoff before they had to return to the Eastern Conference Finals. The Carolina Hurricanes had an 11 or 12-day layoff. That's way too long.
Yeah, I mean, the first game you can excuse and just wash it away.
Yeah, the first game is like kind of like, okay, all that rest, you kind of rule that out. But like, you take that game away, it's a sweep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, how happy has North Carolina been over the last few days?
Oh yeah, you got the Tar Heels doing well in the NCAA baseball tournament. You got the Hurricanes here. The Panthers are looking optimistic.
Yeah,
and also, if you haven't noticed Alec's background, he's got Raleigh, North Carolina in the background, not Pittsburgh.
Yep. I'll be sporting this throughout the duration of the Stanley Cup final. But also, the Hornets made the play-in. They have a very a intriguing future ahead. And Daniel Suarez won the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte.
That's pretty amazing.
Nice.
Okay. Now, one last thing we got to get into before we actually get into our DAS break. We're going to get into a little bit of tennis here, just a little bit. We are through to the round of 16 in the French Open tournament. And I got to tell you, Kevin, as someone who's been watching this tournament from start to finish, this tournament has been drunk. Novak Djokovic going down in the round of 32 to João Fonseca. Yannick Sinner losing in the second round to Juan Manuel Cerundolo. Guys like Ben Shelton going down in round 2. Coco Gauff and Amanda Anisimova went down today in the round of 32. The only American woman left standing is Madison Keys. And the only 2 men standing for the Americans are Francis Tiafoe, who you said has the potential to actually go far, and Zachary, how do you pronounce it? Zajaja. Hopefully I pronounced that right.
I think it's Svida.
Svida.
Yeah.
Okay. Zachary Svida. So there's that. And then, you said this is Djokovic's chance to actually do something. João Fonseca, I am going to say this, though. João Fonseca is the first teenager to beat Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam. And he's a pretty damn good one. Because I praised João Fonseca last year when he came up in the Australian Open last year. And I said, this kid's got all the tools to succeed. And look at him. He had the biggest win of his career by a country mile.
Yeah, he just played unbelievable. I mean, his claim to fame, is his forehand, and you saw it on full display in that match against Novak. His forehand was explosive. His forehand numbers are insane when you look at the average speeds on it. It was absolutely incredible. And even Novak, who you can argue is the greatest tennis player of all time, even he was struggling to get to some of those forehands. And Novak, he had plenty of chances to win. I'm not gonna get on him for his lack of trying or lack of effort, because you also got to keep in mind he just turned 39 years old a week ago before this tournament even started, and he still looked like he was moving pretty good even for 39. He won the first 2 sets, and after that second set, you started to see his level drop a little bit. He was not having clean service games at all. He was making way too many mistakes, especially towards the net. He still needs to work on his overhead game, because every time I see him go for an overhead, I think it's either going to be too long or it's going to go to the net. That's something he's got to do better at. His drop shot game has been getting better, but I think that still needs to have some work. Sometimes he gets off balance with his shots sometimes, and that leads to easy points for the opposition. And I think that Novak, even after all of that, I think he was still moving pretty well. I don't think health was a factor at all, in my opinion. What was a factor, and you see this throughout the entire tournament, was the heat. This year's French Open in particular are record highs in temperatures, where you're seeing temperatures go in the low 90s and having humidity go for anywhere from 30 to 50%. So that's unbearable for players, especially the top seeds. When you combine the heat and the hot clay that you're playing on, you feel like you're playing in the Sahara Desert, in this tournament. And this tournament is really going to be a matter of who can survive the longest in these tough and rough conditions, right? And what I'm starting to see a little bit of a trend of is players who are grew up in these sort of hot environments are going to go far in this tournament. Like Fonseca from Brazil, that's a hot environment.
Right?
Most Spaniards in this tournament are doing really well. Some Ukrainian women are doing really well too. There's 3 Italians still left in this tournament, and Italy. Well, from what Alec had just experienced, going to Italy was very hot indeed. So
yeah, he said it was like an oven in the last days over in Italy when I was there. The European heat over there is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so that was a monumental factor as to why you're seeing not just Novak, but all these top seeds just dropping like flies. You saw Sinner lose to Francisco Cerundolo's younger brother, who was unranked, not the ranked one, the younger brother who's unranked. You saw him lose to him in the second round, so which I would argue it's a bigger upset than Novak losing to Fonseca, because at least Fonseca was ranked, and his forehand, and he just came back from 2 sets down the match prior against Prismic, so he had an inkling that he had the ability to come back. And you also saw guys like Ben Shelton lose, which is early on, which is very uncharacteristic of
in
him.
straight sets too.
Yeah, straight sets too. Medvedev, who lost early in this turn, which I'm really surprised with. Clay is his worst surface by far. Who else? I can go on. Alcaraz wasn't even in this tournament because he withdrew because of his injury. He's going to be out of Wimbledon too, so Novak will have another chance on a different surface and better conditions. You also saw different guys lose in this tournament. You mentioned Anisimova. You mentioned Tommy Paul lost a rough 5-setter against Casper Ruud. You're seeing guys that you wouldn't normally be seeing like advance. Tiafoe's still going strong. He might have a good chance to maybe win it all. Sasha Zverev is the only like top seed left. And I feel like this is easily his tournament to lose because I get the feeling that like if Zverev goes on to win this slam, I feel like his resume is starting to look pretty good now. Like after the slam is just the only thing that he was missing, much like how Novak's Djokovic, the only thing missing from him was an Olympic gold medal. The only thing that Zverev's resume is a Grand Slam title because Zverev won the gold medal already. So
the 2020 Olympics.
Exactly. So that's the one thing Novak wanted. And now Zverev, seeing Novak win 24 slams, he just wants to win one. And I feel like it's his best shot by far because he's going to have tons of competition that he doesn't have to worry about. In fact, the only competition I feel like he does have to worry about is maybe Francis Tiafoe and Felix Auger-Aliassime. I feel like one of these guys can really test him. Maybe Matteo Berrettini or one of the other Italians could go in there too. But I feel like the heat as well as mixed in with like the humidity, it's so hot to the point where like players are either getting dehydrated, they either have to be forced to retire, be forced to a walkover, or straight up getting tired later on as long as the match is going. You saw that with Novak Djokovic too. Like later on that 5th set, you start to see him not even go for shots anymore.
He got tired
because he was getting tired. And I feel like in his mind, he was like, yeah, I'm not about to play a 10-point 5th set tiebreak against this kid who's having the match of his life with his forehand. I'm just going to concede, conserve energy. Most of the top seeds are already out anyway, so it's not like I'm the only one, I got upset. I'm going to rest up. No Alcaraz in the Wimbledon. It's going to be much more favorable conditions. There's going to be a roof that they're going to actually put on. And that's something that I think the French Open should have used because they have a roof, but they don't use it. And they have a heat rule, but they haven't implemented it. I can't imagine how hot it's got to be for them to even enact a rule like that. Like, if players are dropping this much, I mean, close the dang roof and put the AC on for Christ's sakes, because this tournament is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're not used to seeing this many top seeds drop in the early rounds as much as you're seeing because of the dang.
Yeah.
The way the heat reacts to the clay is much different than when heat reacts to a hard court or onto grass. And I feel like, again, Wimbledon's going to have much more favorable conditions. We'll see what happens there. But this tournament is absolutely, because of the harsh conditions and the environment that they're in, as well as, a really tough surface for clay, which is only strengthens only the best players who are like, can adapt to like that kind of environment.
Yeah. And the reason why this is anyone's game, and also a little fun fact, this is the first time since the 2024 Australian Open that we're going to have a first-time champ on the men's side.
Yeah.
So this is literally anyone's game here.
Yeah.
Like, if you can survive clay, you deserve it, hands down. No Alcaraz, no Djokovic, no Sinner. And like you mentioned before, I think Alexander Zverev, this is his best chance to do it. Although I do like Felix Auger-Aliassime's chances. Tiafoe, he's always going to be hanging around there. Although I think he's on the same bracket as Felix Auger-Aliassime, and Aliassime's been excellent. I mean, he's had to come back from 1 set, 2 sets down, but he's been resilient.
And to think that Rafael Nadal won this tournament 14 times. Let that sink in for a bit, because I can't imagine even going through an hour of that heat, just playing a normal game of tennis. I would pass out and have to drink like 3 Gatorades before I call it quits,
Well, first off, Gatorade's not good for you, number one, when you're running. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Second thing I'm going to say is, clay is not everyone's best friend. I mean, other than maybe Alcaraz knows how to handle Clay better than anybody.
Yeah.
And he's not in the tournament. And Iga Swiatek knows how to handle Clay too. But even she's been kind of shaky throughout this tournament a little bit. So is this really anyone's game? And I'm really curious to see how this tournament finishes off with the round of 16. By the time we get to the next episode, we will go over the championships for the men and go over evaluate how the women's championship was. But before we actually get into DES consulting, one thing I want to bring up, and this is an NFL related story. I want to get John going here a little bit. So, John, as you probably know, Josh Jacobs was arrested and had 5 charges, one of which is strangulation of his girlfriend. What more can you tell us about this story?
Well, I was the one that originally posted it in the Armchair Discord. This story is wild. And it started off crazy because there were 2 911 calls. One was by in the house where the 911 operator told police that she heard screaming over the phone, and the second one was by a neighbor who called 911 because she heard screaming. Strangulation is one of the charges. I think it was over Memorial Day weekend. Obviously, there was probably some partying going on. The statement by his lawyers who helped him out when he was with the Raiders they're based out of Vegas, and they said that they're going to fight all of these charges and that none of it's true. So, we're going to have to see what actually happens. I told somebody that if Jacobs, if there's actually truth to the story, and Jacobs gets a bigger penalty than Pierce Jr. in Atlanta, then the NFL is broken in how they hand out punishments, because they are protecting players from domestic abuse, and we've had 2 in the last 6 months of each other. So it's gonna really come down to what happens, and what he's actually officially charged with. And I think we're probably about 10 days away from that happening.
Wow. That's pretty wild, how bad things have just gotten. One thing that you mentioned is that, yes, the NFL has had massive problems handling domestic abuse and athletes who commit felonies like this. This is just not acceptable at all. But Josh Jacobs, of all people, I didn't suspect this happening. Now, yes, it happened over a holiday weekend, but that still doesn't mean it's a good excuse for doing this. Kevin, quick comment. I see you're shaking your head.
Yeah, again, how many times have I seen this already in the past month? You know what I mean? With NFL players just doing stupid stuff off the field. Rasheed Rice doing what he's doing, so he spent time in jail. And I see this come out with Josh Jacobs, and obviously I didn't expect anything either. But also I'm not surprised by just to see another story of an NFL player just doing some criminal activity off the field and drama going on that's just going to hinder your career and your playing time and your future in the NFL. Just that's not a good look. And I'm just it's really, really tiresome to see all these stories come out from the NFL. And to John's point, yeah, I do agree that there needs to be a different way that NFL handles situations like this, because it seems like it's way too prevalent, more so in the NFL than any other sport. You don't really see this happening in the NBA. You're seeing more so gambling stuff in the NBA, but not so often criminal activity or anything like that, in terms of I beat up my girlfriend or something like that and stuff like that. So I feel like NFL, every time you see a punishment, it seems like a slap on the wrist for the most part. But at least Rasheed Rice is serving jail time, so it seems like maybe they're up in the ante so far in the future. But I hope that it continues to be harsher and more strict, because this is not acceptable, especially in the game of football.
Alec, quick comment.
Same thing. I don't have much to say about it.
All right, fair enough. Short, sweet, and to the point. All right. So when we come back for hour number 2, we're going to go over our tiers for NFL coach on the NFC side. And I also have a Fresh Founder Friday, because I'm on the clock this week with Fresh Founder Friday. And analytically, it should be pretty good, from what I understand. And our sponsor is DAS Technology Consulting. DAS Technology Consulting is there for you for all of your IT and data center infrastructure needs. And if you want to know more about what this company is able to do, over 35 years of experience, here's Darren Sirianni. Take a listen.
Our mission is to deliver high quality, scalable, and secure data center services that ensure seamless operations for clients across various industries, offering best-in-class data center services all under one roof.
Thank you, D. It's not consulting for everything that you do, and I know that Darren Sirianni himself is a big fan of the show, and I'm very honored by that. Anyways, welcome to hour number 2 of Foursquare Sports. Matt Sirianni, Kevin Zolskog, Alan Nava, John Welch. We are going to go over our tiers list for the NFL head coach. We're going to start off with the NFC side, and then next week we'll go into the AFC side. Now, before I go into this, let me just recap what the tiers are going to be for our head coaches. Elite, great, good, bad, garbage. Elite being the best, garbage being the worst. Now you can go in the middle and you have to give a brief explanation. We have 16 coaches we're going to go over. So after this, we'll go into Fresh Find and Fried. But anyways, let's start off with the NFC East and then make our way out west. The New York Giants, John Harbaugh. I'm going to start with John here, just to get him going a little bit. John Harbaugh, where do you rank him?
I have one of my really good friends is a Ravens fan, and he is counting down all of the injuries because the Harbaughs are known to be really, really tough on players preseason, which is why I keep throwing out all the ACL tears that keep happening to the Giants.
Yep.
And so, I mean, I think he's probably a really good coach, and the Giants are trending up, and so I want to see them, at least make the playoffs, win the NFC East in the next 4 years. So I'll say good.
All right, that's a fair ranking for him. I do like the explanation you gave about injuries and how the Harbaughs handle it. Kevin, your thoughts?
I think he's a great coach. Elite is very, very exclusive for me in terms of this ranking. John Harbaugh, I feel like if he gets the Giants even to the playoffs and like possibly win the division, I'll bump into an elite status because of where this team has been for a long time. It's kind of same thing with what Mike Brown has done with the Knicks. I used to Brown. I hope John Harbaugh can do the same thing for the Giants. But I think he's a great coach. You've seen what he's done with Baltimore for years and years. Obviously, last year was not the best year under John Harbaugh. But you also really can't blame him for Tyler Loop missing the field goal at the end of the game against the Steelers. It's not his fault. And I don't know if he was probably going to be fired regardless of the outcome of that game. But I'd like to live in a world where I think that John Harbaugh is here because Tyler Loop missed that field goal. That's how I like to think things, but that probably wasn't going to be the real case if the Ravens did win that game. But I think John Harbaugh is a great NFL coach.
All right, Alec, your thoughts?
I have to say with John Harbaugh, he's a good, right on that firm status of good. From recent years, he's been slipping down from great to good, but I have to see if he can turn things around. He's going to set the culture in New York, that's for it is, and lift them to that next level. Playoffs is the start. The question is, can the leads be sustained? I think maybe.
Okay. I'm going to say he's great because he's a former Super Bowl champion and he has established a really well-run program with the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm going to say he's great. Now we're going to go to the Dallas Cowboys and Brian Schottenheimer. John?
Schottenheimer to me is a good coach. I really roasted the Cowboys for hiring him because he's one of the last old school coaches. He doesn't have a very thick playbook for offensive schemes. But the Cowboys are going to have a really good season under him in his second year. So I'm going to say good. I don't think he's great, and he's definitely not elite. So I'll say good.
All right, that's fair. Kev?
I'd say Sean Harmer is decent. I don't think he's that great. I don't think he's that bad either. I think he's just a decent coach. I mean, like, compared to like what he has, that defense is garbage. I mean, there's only so much you can do with that Cowboys defense up last year. Obviously, they've bolstered the defense this year, like with their draft picks. I feel like they're going to be a slightly better team defensively this year than they were last year. But Sean Harmer, I think he's like an okay coach. I'll say good.
Okay, Alec?
So far he's been respectable, right between good and okay. I'm not sure about Dallas this season, but at least offensively they've been hitting the lights out. Defensively, they should see improvement from the defensive backs, but they need to see more than that. I do like the hiring of Christian Parker as the defensive coordinator because of the impact he brings to defensive backs.
All right. Brian Schottenheimer, I hate to say this, but he's a good coach. I still need to see more from him. All right. Now we're going to go to the Washington Commanders and Dan Quinn. John?
I would say Dan Quinn is a good coach. I think if the Commanders end up having a mediocre season, if Jaden Daniels gets hurt again, he's probably gone. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens with his career and if the Commanders have a good season.
All right, Kev?
Yeah, I agree with John. I think Quinn is a good coach, but at the same token, I do feel like that if the Commanders don't make the playoffs this year, I do think Quinn gets canned pretty soon after that, because I feel like with the Commanders, like, it really all depends on the health of Jaden Daniels, if he can stay healthy for majority of the season. And if he plays like he did his rookie season, then you start to see Coach Quinn's status go up a little bit, especially to make the playoffs. But I think that Quinn is a good coach.
All right, Alec?
Good, for what it's worth. They made the playoffs in the first season, but we have yet to see if they can have a bounce back year with this current core. He can elevate a team, that's for sure. He set the culture again. There are culture setters in the NFL, and Dan Quinn is a culture setter. The Daniels and company, they made proof of that. The offense can work. The defense, we need to see improvement from them. That's where the issue is, because Quinn's supposed to be a defensive coach. He was the defensive coordinator of the Cowboys and the Seahawks in the past.
All right. I'm going to say Dan Quinn's a good coach. Obviously, he's been known for 28-3, but I'm convinced that he's a good coach. He led a rookie quarterback to the NFC title game a couple years ago, and I think that he's got good credentials. But I think that if things don't go well this year, he's definitely going to be on the chopping block. All right. Now we're going to the Eagles and my hypothetical cousin, John.
Syria, he pisses me off.
He does.
A lot of the time, half of it is because I don't like Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. Jalen Hurts has an elite offense built around him, and he's not an elite quarterback. But Sirianni, hangs around. The coordinators that have been farmed from out of the Eagles has been an interesting trait to watch. So his tree is going to be interesting in the future. I will say good. He's a good quarterback.
A good coach. Okay,
good coach. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Kev?
I hate to say it, but I think he's a great coach, honestly, because I think he's, even with, he pisses me off too for like obvious reasons. But I think that he's consistently getting this team to really good records, to getting atop the NFC East division if first or second, and they always seem to make the playoffs under his tenure as the head coach of the Eagles. And he's been one of the great coaches for like the past several years, and I can't knock the guy for the way he's perceived, even though I don't like him, and most people really don't like him except for your Eagles fans. Even as players, some players don't even like him, but I still think coaching wise, I still think he's a great coach, and I think he's going to continue to be one unless there's a certain team that rises up and does better than them, and then he falls into question. Giants. So we'll see if that happens, but I still think he's a great coach.
All right, Alec.
This is the hardest one to gauge. Nick Sirianni won a Super Bowl. So what? He's the kind of coach that's like, is he good? Is he bad? It's just, I don't know how to gauge him. Part of me is like, yes, he can spark a team with his emotions. There's the other part of me says, what does he even do for the team? He's just so hard for me to gauge overall. And I understand the Eagles fans' frustration with them. I don't blame them if they want him gone. I feel you can range between good and bad, and honestly, you would not be wrong with that. I'm leaning more towards that he's the only one of the Super Bowl winning coaches that I think is a bad coach. I'm gonna say it. I think he's bad.
He's bad. Okay, I'll mix that up for you. He's a good coach, but a garbage human being, especially with how he eggs on Eagles fans. And Philadelphia is a very harsh fan base to egg on to begin with, but he just knows how to piss them off. Mm-hmm. And it really irritates me, the fact that this guy still has a job. Now, they were getting on Andy Reid's case for years in Philadelphia, but Andy Reid wouldn't do that to fans. So, he is a good coach because he has a good roster. He's a good coach, but he's a garbage human being.
Andy Reid would rather go eat nuggies.
Oh. Yeah, Andy Reid would never do what Nick Sirianni's doing.
Yeah, absolutely not. Anyway, we're going to move on to the NFC North now. Matt LaFleur, John?
Matt LaFleur, I think he is a good coach. As long as Love is there, he's never going to be elite. And the Packers are never going to fire him. I thought that they would, and he's better than mediocre. So the only vote is good for me.
Okay, Kev.
Yeah, same. I think he's a good coach. I just feel like that with the Packers, like uncertain, like inconsistency, especially with their quarterback play and the receivers that they do have. I feel like Jordan Love, like I said, I think he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback. I feel like him and LaFleur are both good in the sense like how they mesh together. But I feel like there could be definitely more improvement. And I think that's going to go with how the team performs and plays. Obviously losing to the Bears in the playoffs, obviously something that you never would have seen in years past. Like with this Packers team, they always seem to beat the Bears, but now the Bears have a different culture coming from Ben Johnson, and I feel like that's going to really carry on into this season. But as far as for Matt LaFleur's case, he's definitely a good coach.
Alec?
Good coach. Blown lead against the Bears notwithstanding, he knows how to get the most out of the Packers. With Jordan Love there, it's just Jordan Love's a confusing quarterback. He's going to start slow, but he's going to catch fire at the right possible time, notably when Toyota Font comes around.
Hey. Okay, Matt LaFleur is a good coach. He's a good coach, but he needs to get over the hump of the playoffs and further rounds. And the Packers need to be better than the 7th seed because they've been the 7th seed in the playoffs for the last 3 years, and they've gotten no farther than that. Next up, we're going to go to the aforementioned Ben Johnson. John?
This is only his 2nd season. And I think at this point he's going to. I think he's a good coach. I think he's trending towards elite. What he's been able to do with Caleb Williams is elite. And it won't be very much longer before the Indiana Bears have a 4,000-yard quarterback.
Right, the Indiana Bears, Kev.
I think he's a great coach. I think that what he did, to this Bears team and to Caleb Williams, into developing him, really impressed me last year. And the fact that they were able to knock off the Packers twice, once time in the regular season, once in the playoffs, something that they've never been able to do because it always seems like the Packers have had their number regardless of who their quarterback was. And the fact that Ben Johnson in his first year was able to get something out of Caleb Williams and actually make him look like one of the top quarterbacks in the league, I think is incredible even in of itself. And I think it's only going to get better from here. I think like John said, I feel like he's trending towards elite status. I need to see how another full season with him coaching looks like and to see if the Bears can make the playoffs again, if they go further. But I do think he's trending in the right direction. I think he's brought a different culture and different mindset to what this Bears team can become. So I think he's a really great coach.
Okay, Alec.
He's trending up. Already cemented himself as a great coach. He's going to be up there as an elite coach when things are going more and more for the Bears. Chicago already has the offense established. Can they be better is the question. I think they'll be a lot better, this offense, as time progresses, as Caleb Williams continues to develop as a passer. The offense is Ben Johnson's specialty, and I can see that continuing here. Just don't let Press Taylor's hackery meddle in the way of things.
Right. Okay. He's a great coach. You want to know why? Because I saw rumblings of how good he could be when he was offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Him working under Dan Campbell, I think, prepared him for this job in Chicago. And Chicago had a magical season last year. And it was ultimately because of him and him resurrecting Caleb Williams from the dead. So I'm going to say he's a great coach. And now I'm probably going to get into another great coach, Dan Campbell of the Lions. John?
Dan Campbell is. I keep forgetting about. We have a great. Dan. I would say Dan Campbell is. This is going to be a really hard season for Dan Campbell because they have a tough schedule. He has a dumpster fire of an offensive coordinator that just came from the Arizona Cardinals. So I think this will probably be one of his toughest seasons, and we'll know whether he's a good or a great coach at the end of the year. I think he has a really good team. I think he misses Ben Johnson, and that showed last year when they missed the playoffs. I will say good. He's. I don't think he's quite great.
All right, that's a
love
little
biting kneecaps, though. I don't know about holy shrimp, but I like biting kneecaps.
Biting kneecaps. Okay, Kev.
Yeah, I'll have to agree with John here because, when he had Ben Johnson as his OC and Aaron Glenn as his DC, he's a great coach. But like he kind of demoted himself a little bit, with not having Ben Johnson as his OC, and the Lions had a 9-8 record, and he kind of demotes him from great to good in my eyes. But I think he can jump up. If the Lions improve next season, they can make the playoffs. They can start making some noise, just like they did a couple of years ago when they made it to the NFC Championship game and then lost. I feel like they can recapture that if they can go through that harsh schedule and that tough schedule, like John mentioned. And I feel like he can jump up from good to being great again, possibly elite, depending on how far they go. But for right now, I'll say he's a good coach still.
Okay, I'm really surprised with the responses, Alec.
I'll keep saying I'm going to be the one that says he's still a great coach. I feel that even though Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are gone, I feel I'm keeping him here for the moment. If he falters in this next year with Calvin Shepard at DC, and I have to check again who the offensive coordinator is, but it's not Mike McDaniel. It's Drew Petzing. Thank you. but I have to see if he doesn't excel with Petzing and Shepard as OC and DC, then he's demoted himself to good. For now, I'm going to keep him at great, and I expect the Lions to bounce back and make the playoffs with this core because they're too talented to fail.
All right. I think he's a great coach. I think John Morton definitely hurt him.
Yes, thank you.
John Morton hurt him, and he hurt the Lions. And there were rumblings even before the season even began that John Morton's offense was complicated. So that's nothing against Dan Campbell. I think it's definitely against John Morton, and that's why they fired him. So I think Campbell's a great coach. I like the fact that he has the biggest cojones in the NFL when it comes to fourth down. And I still think he's a great motivator of men. So he's definitely great.
Secret time?
Kevin O'Connell.
I think the Bears win the division, and Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell do this.
Ooh, okay. Fighting words. Anyway, Kevin O'Connell, John?
So I posted it earlier in Discord. I don't know if you saw it or not. The Vikings today hired the vice president of executive player personnel from the Seahawks to be their general manager.
Yes.
And so I think this is the beginning of the end for O'Connell. I think he is I think he's going to be what was the worst level?
Garbage.
Garbage.
Yeah,
garbage.
he's a garbage coach. He went from the 3 quarterbacks he had 2 years ago were J.J. McCarthy, Daniel Jones, and Sam Darnold. Guess which quarterback he kept?
He kept J.J. McCarthy.
And now he has J.J. McCarthy and the little midget who likes to play Call of Duty from Arizona. So those are his quarterbacks. And I think Minnesota is going to win 3 games this year. So I think he'll be. My prediction is that he will be the first head coach fired.
Okay, Kevin.
I would argue that he should have been fired last year. He's garbage, just like the quarterback that he has, J.J. McCarthy or Kyler Murray. I think garbage head coach doesn't adapt to anything. Doesn't want to admit that J.J. McCarthy is a big issue, and doesn't want to admit that like his team is like doing bad, even though defensively they're one of the worst teams I've ever seen in my life. And they have one of the worst offensive lines and worst quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. And you're making Justin Jefferson look like the worst receiver on the planet. And I'm shocked that he wasn't fired last year, along with the other head coaches that absolutely deserve to be canned. I do agree with you, John. I think he's going to be one of the first ones canned.
As somebody that drafted Justin Jefferson, how do you really feel?
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I feel like I don't invest any stock into any Viking players. Kyler Murray looks like the second coming of Culpepper. Do not invest any stock in any Viking players.
Okay, I know where that's going, Alec.
Like Nick Sirianni, Kevin O'Connell's a difficult one to assess for me. He has his highs. He also has his lows, such as winning 13 games with Kirk Cousins under center and winning 14 games with Sam Darnold under center before flaming out the worst possible time. Things can get good, developing quarterbacks to become good starters like Sam Darnold, that is, and redemption arcs. It can also get really messy with J.J. McCarthy being doomed from the get-go because he was being carried by Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards at the University of Michigan. McCarthy was doomed to be a bust from the get-go if you've seen him play.
Yeah,
it was that awful. But then Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the previous GM of the Vikings, was just as responsible for this. He assembled this mess, so he had to go for the matter. Kevin O'Connell is on the edge of okay and bad on my end, but if Minnesota doesn't get out this garbage heap, then he's getting canned. That's for sure. This just feels weird to me. The Vikings, to me, feel like the late 2010s Calgary Flames for some reason.
Good comparison. All right. Kevin O'Connell is bad. I'm not going to put him in garbage yet, but he's definitely a bad coach. He's just made wrong decision after wrong decision with the quarterbacks. He's unaccountable for J.J. McCarthy, and he honestly makes people like Justin Jefferson look terrible. And I wouldn't invest any fantasy stock on Minnesota Vikings for the next year or two. That's how bad things are in Minnesota. Next time we go to the NFC South, we're going to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Todd Bowles. John?
Todd Bowles, to me, is just above Kevin McCarthy. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers missed the playoffs because of the tiebreaker last year after beating the Panthers. That was one of the weirdest scenarios I've seen, and when it comes down to how a division gets into the playoffs. And Todd Bowles didn't do himself any favors. This team has digressed. They've already lost Mike Evans. So I think their defensive line is getting worse. Todd Bowles has never been a good coach, in my opinion. I would say he's okay.
All right. Kevin?
Yeah, he's like okay, but I don't think he's like that good either. So I think logically I have to put him in the bad quarter category. I don't think he's garbage by any means. I do think that the Buccaneers have been better like a few years ago. But I think like it's just more disappointing and more regression than anything else, for sure. I do think that there's some room for improvement. I definitely think that they have to, be able to beat the Panthers like consistently this upcoming season if they're going to, get to where they want to be. But I think that Bowles has regressed so much from like a couple years ago to now, to where I think that he needs to earn his status of being like a good coach again. Because I do feel like that he was a good coach a couple of years ago, but now that's trended backwards, and I think he's now a like bad to like decent coach.
All right, it's definitely a downgrade from Bruce Arians. Alec?
If you're getting Todd Bowles, the assistant coach, he'll be good for you. I can say he's better off as assistant coach. He's a great assistant coach. But if you're getting him as the head coach, oof, Maron, it's bad. Not really bad, but it's bad. You could ask the Jets for that from personal experience.
Right. That's a good point. Okay, he's bad. Just everything that you said as a head coach, his time with the Jets wasn't desirable. So I think everything that I've seen over the last 2 or 3 seasons, it's bad. Now we're going to the Panthers and Dave Canales. John?
Dave Canales is, I would say he's a good coach. He's still new to the position. He took the Panthers into the playoffs. And it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him and his career and what the Panthers do over the next 2 or 3 years. I'm predicting that they draft a quarterback and get rid of Young at the end of the season. So I'm really, really interested to see what happens. They play in one of the least competitive divisions in the NFL. And this is a developing team. I really liked the moves that they've made under him. So I would say good.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah, same thing. I think it was a good coach, especially coming off of last year where they were able to make the playoffs, barely, but with an 8-9 record. But like I feel like that's a story for a different day. Regardless, but as far as coaching, it's good. I like the moves that they made, like John said. I feel like opportunity to get better, to get from good to great, depending on how the Panthers perform this upcoming year. And I feel that they're definitely possible that they can move on from Young. I don't think they're going to get Arch Manning. I don't think they're going to be that bad to where they get a guy like him. But I do feel like that they might take a flyer on a quarterback and see if they can develop him better than they're able to develop Bryce Young, who I think is still in his developmental stages, and he could get better depending on how well they play games. But Canales, I think, is in the right direction, so I think he's a good coach.
Alec, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. He's a good coach. It will take time to mesh this core together, and offensively, Dave Canales can certainly gel this entire team. Ejiro Evero impressed as a defensive coordinator. They'll get some steps forward, but you need to break out of the bottom quarter of the league offensively. It's going to take a team-wide effort, and Bryce Young is still in his developing stages. Carolina has an intriguing future ahead. I'm not saying it's bright, but it's intriguing. I'll give that at the very least.
Okay. I think he's a good coach on a up-and-coming potential team in a bad division. I think if everything goes well, the Bryce Young prediction by John is very bold, but I haven't really seen Bryce Young take it to the point where I can see him being the Panthers starting quarterback for a long term. I think he's good, but I think I need to see him progress even more and take a bigger step, because right now Bryce Young is taking baby steps, and that's not going to cut it.
It's because he's short.
Pretty much.
Well, he's barely a few inches taller than our heights, Matt.
Yep, short kings rule the world.
Yes, sir.
Kellen Moore of the Saints, John.
I like Kellen Moore. I always have. He's had a really, really interesting career going from the Chargers to the Cowboys, and now he's head coach in New Orleans. He's not good. He's not elite. And the Saints have had one of the worst records as far as being behind over the cap and dealing with cap issues to not being able to bring in players and develop the way that you'd want to with a new young coach. So I will say good.
Kev?
For what he had and what he was working with in his first year, I'll say good, but with a bad team. Going to take time to gel, see what you have like in the future with Tyler Shuck, who put on like a fine rookie season. But I think that Kellen Moore, I think definitely has some room for improvement. But to what he was what he was working with, I'll say good.
Alec?
Good. For what he had in New Orleans, it's clearly a short-staffed Saints team that needs some time to develop. Tyler Shuck and company. You keep Chris Olave, and now you get Jordan Tyson on the receiving core. The Saints are going to take some steps, but for what Moore had to work with, he had this team punching over its weight. Good coach.
I would say he's a good coach too. The Saints came on strong towards the end of the year. And I think this was supposed to be a year the Saints were just evaluating what they had. And what they have right now is not bad. It definitely needs work. But if they're going to go with what they have this upcoming season and think that they can maybe compete for the division, I think there's a chance that they can actually do pretty decent. I'm not going to say that they're going to win the NFC South, but I think that Kellen Moore is definitely a good coach for this current team right now. Nothing more, nothing less. Now the Atlanta Falcons and Kevin Stefanski. John?
My rant about the Browns a couple months ago was under his tutelage, and he had a quote that went viral talking about the accuracy of Tua, and that just drives me bonkers. Because I don't think Tua is accurate when he's got pressure. You can be accurate all day long when you're playing flag football during 7-on-7s. And that's what Stefanski's looking at. So if that's his vision and that's what he wants to say in front of a microphone about Tua, who's not under pressure, that's not a good look. Falcons have a horrible schedule. And they're not going to win very many games. Algiers is gone, so you just have Bijan, which is going to be good. But I think the quarterback situation is going to be really rough, and it's somebody that I don't think is a good quarterback. So I will say bad.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think bad. I mean, Kevin Stefanski went from a bad situation to maybe a slightly less bad situation in Atlanta. With the Browns, I mean, like the product on the field and the records then speaks for itself, and that falls under coaching. And Kevin Stefanski was a big part of that. And now he's going into a situation where he's going to the Atlanta Falcons team, who's also in a pretty bad situation, but at least they're like somewhat more competitive than the Browns, not by much. But I think that, and plus their quarterback is not the greatest, and Michael Penix and Tua. So I feel like there's going to be a lot on Kevin Stefanski's plate. I don't think it's going to be anything too impressive. Again, I think it'll be better than like what the Browns do, pending on if Todd Monken can do what he wants to do in Cleveland. But I'll agree that I think that he's just not it. He's a bad bad coach.
Bad coach, Alec.
This was the coach I once thought was going to be great or good, depending on how you put it. What happened over those years in Cleveland? How is a once good coach suddenly losing his luster? And now he's finding himself in a bad situation, and he doesn't know how to match himself out of it. Yeah, you go from Baker Mayfield to Deshaun Watson to the whole quarterback carousel debacle between Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, and now you get Tua Tagovailoa and Michael. Do I even have to say slamming the Penix in the car door? You slammed the Penix in the car door repeatedly. The heavy is dead. Okay. I need to stop getting myself into
shrimp to hurt shrimp. What are we doing, Alec?
Well, holy shrimp, John.
Oh my my god. Okay. He's bad. Kevin Stefanski is bad. And it's a shame because he had potential to be a great coach in Cleveland. After the COVID playoff victory in 5-6 years ago, I thought the Browns were up to something good, but then they've just reverted back to their old ways immediately after that playoff game. And they just don't know how to handle a franchise. Honestly, Arthur Blank is better owner than Jimmy Haslam, but
easily
better. But I think that Kevin Stefanski's luster has absolutely disintegrated over the years. So I think he's bad.
Stefanski and O'Connell, elite first names, but awful coaches.
Agreed. Now we're going to go to the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champion, Mike Macdonald. John?
Well, they went to the Super Bowl in his second year, and I watched it happen. I watched him come in and map it out. His first meeting with the players, and he said the road is the Super Bowl, and he got there in his second season. So I will say elite. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit of a homer here, but I mean, you know.
I get it. Kevin?
I mean, yeah, same, elite. How can he not be? He just took this team to the Super Bowl in his second year, like John mentioned, and I feel like he's immediately clicked with the entire team, and like everyone bought in immediately. Nobody thought that Sam Darnold was going to be like this good in Seattle in his first year. I mean, if you saw him playing in Minnesota, you believe that of the potential that what he could do, and with the way that this defense was run. And the way this entire coaching staff gelled together along with under Mike Macdonald, I think it all worked beautifully. And that's why you saw them dominate the way that they did in the playoffs, in the regular season, and of course in the Super Bowl. So elite, definitely.
All right, Alec.
Well, no, John, you're not a homer. Mike Macdonald's already established himself as an elite coach. It's him taking his defense to another level proved that. Him keeping the offensive integrity proved that. And who knows what is to come? This future, the sky is the limit in Seattle. I don't know if they're going to repeat, but they'll be in contention for the top seeds in the NFC. Okay. The dark side is here to stay.
The dark side, the Legion of Bomb, whatever you want to call their defense, it's just incredible. Now, second-year head coach, and he's already won a Super Bowl. I would say elite. I mean, people don't pay attention to Mike Macdonald a lot, and I feel like they should start taking note of him. In a division that has Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, he is another offensive and defensive-minded coach that I think just blends with the city, blends with the team so well. And to say that he has a Super Bowl in just his second year, I think is just incredible. So I say elite.
Not anything against the Giants, but my Baltimore Ravens fan friend said that the Ravens lost their elite head coach when the Seattle hired Mike Macdonald.
Wow. Now, I previously mentioned Sean McVay. Let's get into him, John.
I would say McVay is elite. I make fun of the Rams. I make fun of McVay and the face he made when they drafted Ty Simpson at 13. But the stats speak for themselves. He and Bradford scored the most passing touchdowns in 2025 in the whole entire NFL. And I keep waiting for him for the quarterback to break his back and not be able to play. But they keep throwing it one more year. McVay, doesn't matter who's quarterback, doesn't matter who's wide receiver. He draws up some plays that just can't be beat. So I would say elite.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah, same thing, elite. I think Sean McVay was elite even before Matt Stafford when Jared Goff was his quarterback. I think that's how good he's been for like a consistent amount of several years now. And like John mentioned, like Sean McVay, like he's a really, really good coach in what is an otherwise not in a great organization in the Rams. Like years ago, I remember when the Rams were like a okay to like bad team, and ever since Sean McVay became the head coach of this team, I feel like they've been one of the top teams in the NFC for a long time now, it seems like. And I feel like it's going to continue to have that as long as, it doesn't matter the quarterback, like John said. It doesn't matter who the receivers are. I feel like as long as McVay is the head coach, I feel like the Rams are going to continue to thrive for as long as he continues to be the head coach.
All right, Alec.
What else can you say about him? Sean McVay needs no introduction. Elite.
All right. Absolutely elite. One of the most intelligent offensive minds in football today. He is so smart. He can talk football for hours, even when he's on vacation in Cancun or Hawaii where he met Matthew Stafford. I'll never forget the story behind that. And I think it just shows you that this man is on a mission no matter what he does, and he's always going to get the best out of his players. So absolutely elite. Now we went to Matt LaFleur. Let's go to Mike LaFleur. John.
Well, we don't know yet, do we? He came from the Rams. He came from an elite coach. So he's part of the McVay tree, and he's inherited the way that the coaching hirings went. There were 10 NFL coaches that lost their jobs.
Yes.
One of the most in most recent time that I've ever seen. So for him to go through the processes that he did and end up in Arizona is probably one of the toughest landing spots you could be in, especially with the Cardinals having the worst record in the NFL coming up. They are. What did I see? They play 17 games and they are favored in none of them. So I am gonna say a good coach in a garbage situation.
I like that terminology. Kev?
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like he's going into a really, really rough situation. He's going from a really great situation to a really, really bad situation. And it's really tough to do going into a situation like that. Excuse me. And I feel like, the road ahead for the Cardinals, extremely tough. I feel like the only thing that's going to even be remotely interesting about them is, Trey McBride and Jeremiah Love. And that's really it, because I feel like they've got nothing else going for them, because Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't look great. He's constantly injury prone. And I feel like, regardless of who the quarterback is, Jacoby Brissett looks okay, again, in a bad situation. But I feel like it'll be the same thing for Mike LaFleur. We have no way of knowing what's going to happen with him. But baseline, you would think that going from the Rams to the Cardinals, he would be good. But his team, just not much to work with. Kind of like with Kellen Moore with the Saints, how he transitioned. I think it'll be the same thing for Mike LaFleur. Good coach in a really bad situation, but hopefully room for improvement after this season unfolds.
All right, Alec.
Too early to tell. He's in a bad situation, but he's been put in. But he worked nicely in the Rams' offensive system, but we just don't know just yet. I'll come back to this one by the end of the year.
I honestly want to say something, but I don't know. There isn't a sample size, honestly. I don't know what to say about him yet. I mean, he seems like he's a good coach, but a garbage situation, as John mentioned earlier. And listen, Arizona has not had a good history of keeping head coaches for a long period of time. So maybe he could break that mold.
If he goes in and keeps things simple, the number one priority should be to figure out who your number one running back is. And the second priority should be to teach MHJ how to catch.
Yes.
If you can do those things, I will say you had a good season. And if you win more than 4 games, it was a good season.
Agreed, 100%. All right, and last but certainly not least for this episode, oh my God, blank on
Kyle
Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan. Oh my God, my mind's all over the Kyle Shanahan. John.
He's a good coach. I think his general manager has put him in worse and worse situations with players. The personnel for this team has definitely deteriorated. They were behind the cap in a lot of situations over the last 18 months. So they're dealing with a lot. They had a huge injury season last year. And so he did the best he could. And I think you're going to see that 1 or 2 more years before they climb back out of this hole. Shanahan is a good coach. He's not elite. He's not okay. And that's basically because of the talent that they have kept healthy. So I'll say good.
All right, Kevin.
I think he's still a great coach. I think that the seasons where the Niners got injured, that's not really necessarily his fault. He did the best he could with what he had at the time. Obviously, when those players are healthy, I mean, you start to see how good this Niners team can be. I mean, this wasn't too long ago where you saw the Niners make it to 2 Super Bowls, even though they lost it. They still were able to get there under Kyle Shanahan, and I think that it's really going to depend on the health of the players, obviously. But I think that Kyle Shanahan, I think consistently, I think he's been a great head coach. I don't think he's at elite status yet. I think if he gets to the Super Bowl again, against these tougher teams in the NFC, with the Rams being as good as they are, the Seahawks, emerging like they are under Mike McDonald. I feel like if we can get past those teams like that, and they're in the same division too, so that's going to be cinema that division. If you ask me. But I think Kyle Shanahan's still a great coach.
Alec?
In the border of great and elite, we know how he can scheme things up of his offense and how many ways he can create offense for his guys. And yes, his reputation is well known. The injury bug needs to go towards the favor of him because the Niners have had a history of having bad luck. Just cut the cord on the electrical substation, please. Jokes aside, he's still a great coach.
I still think he's a great coach, too. I mean, the skill position players that he's able to convert into stars, I still think that Kyle Shanahan, he's taken the Niners to Super Bowls, didn't win any, but I feel like he still makes the Niners a competitive ball club with him as their head coach. And honestly, I don't think anyone can do a better job than him at this point in this current situation. So I'm going to say he's a great coach. Okay. We are 1 hour and 47 minutes in. Ladies and gentlemen, get your popcorn ready because
it's time for Fresh, Fine, or Fried.
This is the segment that closes out the show, and if you don't know the rules, I'll explain the rules right now for those who are new. One of us, every single week, a different person will have 5 minutes to go over any sports take that's on our mind, but although it doesn't have to be sports related. At the end of our 5-minute take, the rest of the panelists will rate us on a scale of fresh, fine, or fried. Fresh meaning good, fine meaning okay, and fried meaning ew. What did you eat this morning? So I'm on the hot seat this week, and these gentlemen already know what my fresh, fine, or fried is. I kind of hinted it, so I'm going to go over it. All right, so Kenny Atkinson, after Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals, said the quote, analytically, we're up 2-1 in this series, even though he was down 3-0. And he was asked the question, what gives you hope in this series? And so Kenny Atkinson said, well, analytically, we're doing good, and we're up 2-1 in this series. I mean, if you look at our wide open shooting percentage, if you look at how many open layups we're taking and how we're driving to the basket more, we're doing better in this 3-game sample size than we have in all entire season. I wanted to crawl up in a ball and cry because as someone who loves numbers, who loves statistics, you can't rely on analytics and stats for every single thing and aspect of sports. It's like the quote that Josh Hart said, which, by the way, is quote of the year. Analytics are like a lamppost. You can lean on it, but it won't get you home. Because analytics are not the end-all, be-all for every single solution in sports. It makes you smarter, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you rely on it for every single waking moment in sports, and you have to go based off the stats and the analytics and the analysis to basically make yourself better. What about effort? What about current situation? What about the personnel that you have? I mean, it's all those things together are what puts together wins and losses, not analytics. And every sport is going based off of analytics now, and I don't like it because this is why I like guys like Dan Campbell who just say, screw the analytics, I want to go for on 4th down because I'm confident in my team and the personnel that I have on the field. That's why I like people who are just gutsy with what they have and say, you know what, I want to put energy into this ball club. Let's go for it. That's in football. In basketball, it's a big analytics-based sport because you're just shooting around and they go based on shooting percentage and how much, and from the floor, from three, all that stuff. And I don't like it when people say, well, if this team shoots 60% or better from three, they're 12-0. Okay? I don't like that because you're putting pressure that, oh my God, we have to hit a certain number. It's pressure that you don't need. And it's too much numbers going on here. I don't like it at all that we're so data driven and so analytically driven. The fact that we lose sight of effort and actually real life situation. Real life doesn't come into play. And what kills me the most is that we have a lot of nerds involved in sports now. And while I'm not saying nerd in a bad way, I'm saying in a way like the hard-nosed, aggressive people are being phased out of sports, and nerds are coming in to say, okay, go by the numbers. And I hate it on fourth down. They go, analytics say, go for it on 4th and 3 when you're inside their own 20-yard line in your opponent's territory and you can kick a field goal. It kills me. Now, no sport is more analytically driven than the sport of baseball, which is Major League Baseball. Oh, the amount of times I want to scream at the TV whenever Aaron Boone makes a pitching change. Because he's like, okay, 2 of the next 3 batters are lefty. I'm going to go righty because this righty strikes out, 29, 35 to 50% of left-handed batters. And he goes with a right-hander who's like got an ERA of 5. What are you doing, Aaron Boone? This is one of the reasons why I don't like him. Like, oh, the batting average for this righty is 171 against lefties. So, what does that mean? It means nothing. Go out and produce. Don't go by the numbers. Like if we go by the numbers for every single athletic situation, which we do in today's sports, you're driving the average fan crazy. And I'm only saying this as someone who loves numbers. I'm saying this as someone who can calculate numbers in his head. I love stats. It makes sports compelling. But you want to also make sports compelling? Upsets, defying the odds, going against the grain in analytics. And unfortunately, sports like Major League Baseball, NHL, NFL, and even the NBA don't listen. And they just want to keep throwing numbers in our face to make us give a positive reaction when really it doesn't matter. I mean, go by what you see on TV, not by the numbers.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
I'm going to start off with John. John, fresh, fine, and fried.
Well, I think that's. I'm going to say fine.
Okay.
I think that analytics definitely has come in and taken control of a lot of sports, especially in certain situations. But you contradict yourself with this by saying that you appreciate Dan Campbell and the way he goes for it on 4th down. I think it's fine. I think analytics, especially in baseball, that's the numbers are baseball. That's why you guys love that sport, is because of the numbers, because of how you're mitigating analytics and how you're. I mean, the Mariners just went through a slump because we didn't have any left-handed batters that could hit, and all of a sudden we started hitting. So analytics definitely had a big part in that, and the A's changed their pitcher because of analytics, because of how they wanted to throw against the Mariners, and that was only a couple days ago. So I think that you should put your trust in your team, but I also think analytics are an important part of how you play the sport. There's an entire movie made off of analytics. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Moneyball.
Moneyball. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point. All right, Kevin, fresh, fine, and fried.
I have to say the same thing. I think it's fine too. I think, yeah, I do agree full-heartedly that I think that analytics, like, you cannot rely on it too much and make it like your bread and butter of like everything that how you run things. Trust me, when you were talking, I was immediately thinking of Aaron Boone too. Like, whenever He needs to put a right-hander in when they has a righty lane coming up. And instead of like a good reliever coming in like Fernando Cruz, who he's warming up, he puts in Camilo Duvall instead. And then what do you know? He ends up blowing the game. And then he puts Cruz in an inning later. And then what do you know? Cruz has a 1-2-3 inning. And that's the kind of garbage I don't like as far as analytics goes. But I do agree, like on the same token, on the opposite side, that that analytics I think are needed in like sports, and I think it's what drives some factors. And you did mention Dan Campbell. Yes, he does pretty much always goes for it on fourth down whenever it's like 4th and 3 or less, because that's the kind of aggressive mindset that he has. But there are certain situations where analytics can be helpful in certain situations if you are able to execute it correctly. When they're not executed correctly, you hate it. When they are, you love them. But again, you can't lean on them, like Josh Hart said. But I do think that like there is a time and place for analytics, but there is a place for analytics for in certain times. And that's where I'm gonna like agree with John there. So I'll say it's fine.
All right, that's fair. Fresh Founder Fried.
Same thing, fine. That analytics are volatile. You can rely on them for certain situations, but there has to be a balance between relying on analytics and knowing when not to trust them at certain points. In the NFL, there are certain situations where you should take the points, or other situations where you must absolutely go for them. So take into account both conference championship games. 4th and 1, weather getting worse, take the points. 4th and 4, you're in an offensive shootout and you're 6 yards away from the goal line in the 4th quarter, and you're facing up against the eventual Super Bowl champions. I can understand why you're going for it, because it's either you're going to get a touchdown, or you're going to have to play defense so as to not get them a chance of running the ball deep. But the logic of that is hindsight's 20/20 with analytics. You don't know what to expect with them. But analytically, Kenny Atkinson is fried.
Oh my God. Okay. We have a couple minutes to go before we have to end it. I just gotta say one thing about the whole Kenny Atkinson thing, really quick. That man, I'm shocked that he has a job after that stupid comment. Because I forget what it was, but there was another occasion where a guy went up to his owner and was like, "Hey, listen, we may have lost, but analytically, we won the game."
That would drive me absolutely insane. Analytically, I'm in the Garden, guys. Analytically, I am. Analytically, I'm in the Fertitta Center. Analytically, I'm in the Yankee Stadium, but I'm not. Stop lying to yourself.
Come on.
Analytically, the Cavs should go on an Atkinson diet.
Seriously.
Well, yeah.
That's a good one. Nice play on words.
Nice one.
Like, analytically, we understand. Analytically, the Cavs are losing brain cells.
Yeah. That's literally. That's not even analytically. It's literally.
Like that whole Kenny Atkinson thing, that was inspired by Fresh Founder Fried, because there's no way you could go into a press conference and say those things. And when he said it, I was just laughing. I just laughed.
This is just pathetic.
Like, it's coping. It's coping in the worst possible way.
Absolutely. You cannot be serious.
No, absolutely not. All right. Now, before we go, one last thing I want to get into, that was Fresh Founder Fried. I want to advertise our good friend David Smith Armchair's guide, the Fantasy Football Draft Kit for 2026. Stop chasing and start winning. And if you look at this guide, it will give you tiers lists on the top 200 players in the NFL that you should draft, and they give you a lot of analysis in terms of dynasty leagues and also regular fantasy leagues. And the reason why I'm doing this for 2 reasons. Number one, David Smith Armchair is a great guy. You should check his stuff out on Sportsocracy. Number 2, if I promote this every single week, he'll join the Foursquare Fantasy League this year. So that's a promise I'm willing to keep. Download it today. You can download it on, I think it's Gumroad, which is the app. It costs $9, which is very, very cheap. So I think it's worth it, especially if you're driven to win a fantasy championship like me.
But you got to get past me and John first.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, man. Anyways, from Kevin,
auto
to John. Go ahead. Go, John.
I said okay, auto draft.
Oh, my God. From Kevin Alec and John, I'm Matt Sirianni. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching Four Square Sports. Watch our episode or our interview with Scott Bradley. It's so good. And Scott was an awesome guy. But anyway, this has been Four Square Sports, which is sports at score. Take care, everybody. We will see you next week. See you later.
Hi, everybody. Christopher Mad Dog Russo here. And you know what I do? Four Square Sports on Sunday nights, 6 to 8, with all those parts of the country taken care of. Listen all the time. You got it. Mad Dog on Mad Dog Unleashed. Listen to my guys. Listen to my guys.